Story 1.
I met a guy in college. We were in a small summer class, maybe 12 people. I was there because my advisor made a mistake. He was there because he was 3 credits short of graduating. He tried everything to get out of the class, but he couldn't. I remember the first day he walked in, and something in me just switched on. I can't explain it. It felt like a light turning on inside my chest. Immediate butterflies. The kind that doesn't happen often. On the first day, we sat on opposite sides of the room, but on the second day, he moved. He sat near where I had been sitting the day before, and I instinctively knew. It wasn't random. He wanted to be closer to me. We started talking, and the similarities were almost unsettling. Same favorite books, same authors, similar childhoods. The exact same strange sense of humor. It felt like meeting someone who had been reading the same invisible script as me. We also both went through something traumatic the month before that class. Deep losses, so we bonded over grief. We found out we lived along the same train line, an hour away from campus. Just 2 stops apart. So we started taking the train home together. There was this one experiment in class. Something about sitting in the dark so our pupils would dilate. I don't even remember the purpose anymore. But I remember this. We were chosen together, alone, in a dark room, and the tension was unbearable. You could cut it with a knife. I felt like a teenager again, heart racing, stomach in knots. We just sat there talking in the dark. His voice was soft, smooth. Every second felt electric. We started meeting before class, then grabbing drinks after. We would sit at a bar for 5, sometimes 6 hours, just talking. On the last day of class, we skipped it completely. We chose each other instead. That day, he told me he felt it too. That same pull when he first saw me. And yes, he had moved his seat on purpose. We fell hard, the kind of love that feels fictional, like something written for movies. We were texting constantly, FaceTiming all night. He would text me the second he woke up, and we would fall asleep together on video call. He felt like he lived in my pocket. One night, he drove us to the water and parked facing the shoreline. The sky was dark. The water was quiet. He leaned his seat back and just looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face. When we kissed, it felt magnetic. I know that sounds cliche, but it felt like 2 forces pulling toward each other. We fell deeper and deeper, and what shocked me most was, it was completely mutual. I was shy and reserved. He did most of the pursuing, but I gave everything back. We couldn't stay away from each other. When we went out, people stared, men and women, because it was obvious. We were that couple, cheesy, radiating happiness. Looking back, it almost feels embarrassing, but it was real, or at least it felt real. Until I found out he had a girlfriend the entire time, everything shattered. I spiraled into depression for 2 years, 2 years of crying every single day. I never healed from the trauma I experienced before I met him. He became the bandage. And when he left, the wound reopened. So I was grieving twice, the original loss and the betrayal. I don't share this story often. It happened a long time ago, but it still stings sometimes. Not because I still love him, but because I remember the version of me who was destroyed by it. Sometimes, I wish I could go back, sit next to that younger version of myself, and just give her a hug.
Story 2.
This happened in my 11th grade, the year I missed the most. It was a crazy year. The year I outgrew myself. After my 10th board exams, I'm from India, by the way. I was known as the sweet, well-behaved boy. I won competitions, topped academically, and was basically the ideal student. But even then, I always felt like something was missing. I was successful, but introverted, quiet, a little lonely. I got admission into a college far from home. Some of my childhood friends joined too, and we stayed in a hostel together. But within a month, we realized the hostel conditions were terrible. It just didn't feel right. On April 23rd, I left and came back home. That's when I found out my family had been hiding my mother's health condition. She had a tumor removed on April 28th. It was one of the hardest phases of my life. And it didn't stop there. On the very day her stitches were removed, my uncle got into a serious bike accident. His knee was completely crushed. Everything felt like it was falling apart. I had no friends at that point. They were angry that I left the hostel. Then, on May 13th, my board results came out. I scored 95%. I know that sounds good, but it was the lowest score of my entire academic life. In that mental state, it felt like failure. I locked myself in my room, handled most of the household chores, and felt completely alone. After a few days, one friend forced me to hang out. I refused at first, but eventually, I agreed. That day, while walking to his house, I saw Runika. We had been in the same tuition class, back in 8th grade. She was standing with her father. For maybe 3 seconds, everything changed. We didn't talk, but we both felt it. I forgot all my problems in that moment. Later, I texted her on Instagram. That conversation never really ended. We started FaceTiming for 3 to 4 hours every day. It was summer vacation, and life started to feel alive again. She talked non-stop, and I just listened. One evening, I proposed to her. She was happier than I was. Later, she told me she had a crush on me since 8th grade, ever since I played guitar once in tuition. With her, all my trauma faded. I would go to my terrace in peak summer, completely drenched in sweat, just to talk to her for hours. Once, I went to her house when her parents were out. I cooked for her. We ate on the terrace during sunset. I laid my head on her lap while she ran her fingers through my hair. I still can't forget that evening. I used to visit her school just to see her. And then, out of nowhere, she broke up with me, blocked me everywhere. She said she wanted to focus on her studies. I knew she was lying, but I didn't question her. I shattered completely. She was the only person holding my broken pieces together. I isolated myself again and started getting anxiety attacks. Thankfully, my friends didn't leave me this time. They helped me slowly rebuild. I started doubting myself, thinking maybe I wasn't good enough. So I decided to become the best version of myself. There's a 2,400-foot hill near my house. I started climbing it every single day. I watched the sunrise from the top. I fixed my diet, started skincare, focused on my studies. I was glowing up physically and mentally. I started discovering who I really was. Then, in December, she texted me again. She apologized. She said one of her friends had convinced her that I was a red flag, that I manipulated girls and used them. I broke down again because I barely talked to anyone, and she believed those rumors. She said she regretted her decision just 1 week after breaking up, but she was scared to text me because she thought I wouldn't accept her again. And all that time, I was just one message away. Now, she wants to come back. She says she loves me. She gets jealous, thinking I've moved on. She even texted girls from my followers list, telling them to stay away from me. And now, I don't know what to do. Is she really in love? Or is she just afraid of losing control? I don't hate her. To me, she's still my little girl. But I'm scared. Scared of breaking again. So yeah, that's my story.
Story 3.
I met my husband when I was 18 years old. It was my very first job. I was a lifeguard at the YMCA. He was a lifeguard too. He was 22 in college, confident in a way that felt grown up and steady. That entire spring and summer, we flirted shamelessly. We co-taught swim lessons together, and I still remember how good he was with the kids. That was honestly one of the first things that made me notice him. He was patient, playful, kind, the kind of guy who didn't just do the job, but cared about it. We spent months teasing each other, laughing between classes, stretching conversations longer than necessary. And then finally, about 2 or 3 weeks before I left for college, he asked me out. The timing was terrible, but we tried anyway. We did the long-distance thing for about a month. He drove 3 hours one way to visit me at school for a weekend. And within the first few hours of being there, he broke up with me just like that. No big fight, no dramatic scene. Just a quiet realization that maybe the distance, the timing, it wasn't right. He drove home that same night. I told him he could stay. It was late, but he insisted on leaving. On the highway, he hit a coyote. Thankfully, he made it home safe. The next day, he went on a date with another girl. And eventually, he married her. Life moved on, and so did I. I threw myself into college. I had fun. I dated other people. I grew up. I figured out who I was outside of teenage crushes and summer romances. After graduating, I moved back to our hometown. While looking for a job in my degree field, I picked up my old lifeguarding job again. And there he was, still working there part-time, teaching swim lessons. Except now, he was recently divorced. When I first saw him again, I won't lie, he was still cute as hell, still funny, still amazing with kids. Watching him teach lessons again reminded me exactly why I had fallen for him the first time. We worked a shift together guarding a high school swim meet. And this time, I flirted relentlessly. I wasn't 18 anymore. I wasn't shy. I knew what I wanted. A few days later, he asked me to dinner. Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into a makeout session in his apartment. And somehow, that night never really ended. We've been together ever since. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a fairy tale. He had just come out of a marriage where his ex-wife cheated on him. She broke him in ways he didn't talk about much. He was a serial monogamist, always in long, serious relationships. I, on the other hand, had never been able to commit to anyone longer than a few months. But this time felt different. 6 weeks in, I told him I loved him. He didn't say it back. And strangely, I was okay with that. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like the movies where someone storms out crying. I knew he was emotionally bruised. I knew love scared him. I wasn't saying it to pressure him, I just wanted him to know how I felt. So I gave him time, and slowly, gently, he healed. He met me where I was. Today we've been together for 8 years, married for 5. We have 2 beautiful little girls. And when I watch him with our daughters, patient, silly, protective, I see the same lifeguard who once taught swim lessons with so much care. Only now, he's teaching our kids how to swim, how to live, how to love. Sometimes love doesn't work the first time. Sometimes it needs distance, growth, a little heartbreak. But when it comes back, at the right time, it feels steady. And I truly couldn't ask for a better husband, partner, or father to my babies. Now I love him more than that 18-year-old girl ever could have imagined.
Story 4.
I was only 16 at the time, just a naive teenager who wanted one thing: a real relationship, something safe, something honest. I had a short history with her before, nothing serious. She didn't love me back then, but this time felt different. I won't mention her real name, so let's call her Emma. She was 4 years older than me, and somehow that made her feel even more special, more mature, more experienced. I fell for her deeply, maybe too deeply, for someone my age. My mental state back then was already fragile. I had just come out of a relationship where I was cheated on. My confidence was shattered. My trust was broken, and then she appeared, like a light in the dark. With her, I forgot everything. The betrayal, the humiliation, the pain. We talked every single day, morning to night. We would fall asleep together on FaceTime, just listening to each other breathe. She made me feel chosen, important. But Emma had serious health issues, heart failure, problems with the blood vessels in her heart. She had multiple surgeries. I remember being terrified every time she went into an operation room. And then, just a few days after one of her surgeries, her grandmother passed away. She was devastated. I stayed by her side through all of it. I skipped work, I barely slept. I did everything I could to support her emotionally. And slowly, she started getting better. At that point, we were officially in a relationship. I felt proud, like I had helped save someone I loved. In May, I started working again. I was already 17. Emma moved to another country around that time. I worked from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., almost 3 weeks straight, no days off. The pay was small, but I didn't care. I just wanted to build something for my future. At the end of my second week, I received a call from an unknown number. A voice told me Emma had been in an accident. My heart stopped. I wanted to run to her immediately, but I couldn't. I was 17. I couldn't just leave the country. I felt trapped inside my own helplessness. After some time, the same number called again. This time, the person introduced herself as Emma's sister. She told me Emma had died. And then, all of Emma's accounts disappeared. Her chats, her social media, everything was gone. It felt real, too real. I fell into depression almost instantly. I stopped functioning. I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every memory we had together. Every I love you. Every late-night call. My only friend tried to help me. Slowly, he started pulling me out of that darkness, but something didn't feel right. So I started investigating, and what I found destroyed me in a completely different way. Emma was alive. There had been no accident, no death, no tragedy. She had found another guy, and while she was still with me, she had already started a relationship with him. The accident story, the fake death. Deleting everything, it was just her way of disappearing without confrontation. I wasn't grieving a dead girlfriend. I was grieving a lie. To this day, I still struggle to communicate normally with girls. I sit at home most of the time. I'm afraid to start something new. Afraid of being replaced again. Afraid of not being enough. Sometimes I wonder what hurt more, thinking she died, or finding out she chose to erase me. That's all for today. If stories like this speak to you, you can subscribe or leave a like. More real stories are coming.